his lifetime, or was that something that was part of his legacy?
The farmer of the Maine.
Artist residency, I don't know.
Is this farmland trust?
With the farmland
Well,
trust.
before, I think before it was farm, I thought it was called the Fiore.
Oh, I
Fiore
know.
Foundation.
You're talking about the foundation that was in. It was in Jefferson,
Yes.
and it was on land, the farmland trust.
Well, I saw when Susan did her installation in Walk.
Right. It's no longer there. The farmland trust does not run it anymore, right, Richard? They it ran for about 3 years, and they had an artist in residency program, and I went to an opening. You went there too, and it was great. That Joe's work was on the farmhouse wall inside, but for some reason the farmland trust decided they couldn't manage doing that anymore.
One of the last artists who participated in the residency there showed here 2 years ago as part of Seven, the collective abstract group.
Oh yeah.
Michael Droge. They were in that residency. I think maybe the last class in that residency.
Yeah, it was a cool thing when it lasted. Oh, well, if there are no other questions, thank you all.
Thank you. Watching that painting, and subsequently, after Joe died, David became an executive curator of Joe's work up in that barn. And it was at that time that Ron Gregory bought the firehouse in Damariscotta, which was a little clothing store right across from the church, but it had a tower where they used to hang the hoses back in the day. And Ron got it all cleaned up and painted up inside. And then David would put on shows there. And he did a show of Joe's watercolor. And the first, it wasn't this big a painting either. But when you opened the door to come into the building, and there was a wall, you know, that you could walk around, and paintings all along the sides. But in the center of the wall was this maple tree. And he had found it going through the piles and piles of works on paper that Joe had left. He must have spent months going through them. And he found me, which are the sketches for this painting from 1968 that Mary gave me. It's the Hudson River in winter, it's called. But you can, that's a studio painting. He wasn't out painting in the middle of winter. But these are the sketches that he did on site. And they're interesting to look at, to compare with the final.
Interested in seeing other work of his, you can go online and see different shows that he had in the past. I think we feel here that he's a little underappreciated, and we're very excited about having him in this gallery, and maybe we'll hopefully do something more in the future with more of his work. Because
back in the 2000s, in the summertime, when Hilton Kramer of Criteria magazine,
and the New York Times,
who lived in Waldoboro and used to come down and walk around Damariscotta with a big straw hat. The Farnsworth, under Chris Crossman, was having an Andrew Wyeth blockbuster. And Brown Top in Damariscotta was having a show of Joe's work. And in the Free Press from Rockland, which is a free newspaper, in the letters column, these two gentlemen got to commenting on each other's shows. And the short take is that Hilton Kramer, who was very well known in the art world, thought Joe's work was far superior.
Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask Geoffrey or Yvette or me? Martha?
Thank you very much for sharing your remembrances of this very interesting painter. So talking a little bit, you said he was born in 1925,
Mm-hmm.
and would you say maybe his experience, I mean, this week is the 80th anniversary of D-Day in France, so would you say maybe he, having been in the infantry in World War II, might have had some connection or relation to his being so quiet? I mean, I'm just imagining this, but wondering if you had any personal thoughts about that, if you can't speak about that.
It could very well be. I've often wondered about why so many paintings of rocks, and that war experience may have put that in front of him. I don't know. He wasn't an unknown artist. He was a member of the National Academy of Design in New York, which is the big thing all artists want to be in. He was an associate, and then he was voted full membership, and he was an NA for decades. Yeah.
Anyone else have a question? Tom?
Just a short, inconsequential observation. You said that Joe was a humble man. Now, I had occasion to visit his house on North Mountain Road a couple of times because I was the monitor for the property, the conservation easement. I would go there in the fall, and he and Mary invited me in to the house one time because I was waiting around. It was a bad morning for somebody who was going to do the walkabout with him. And Joe Fiore was a humble man. His house was a very humble house, too. I understand Mary was a woman of means, actually. They could have done better, but the house was quite unimproved. They lived in it for years.
Yeah.
Totally fitting. His studio being a barn, it was a barn. The thing that impressed me is that the path down to the barn from the house, nobody had ever cut any of the grass. The grass was this high, and there was one little path through it. Yeah.
Ed Bean, in his essay, talks about Black Mountain College group a little bit, and he refers to Ilya Bolakowski as a mentor because maybe serendipitous, but a silkscreen of Ilya Bolakowski was auctioned today at Rachel Davis Fine Arts in Cleveland, and sold for the minimum price. And I was tempted, but I wasn't online at the time. But can you speak to any acknowledgement by Joe of his mentors? Did he speak of Ilya? Did he speak of, was Robert Rauschenberg there?
Yeah.
He was there, right?
No,
He never said a word to me. No.
It was.
I'd read about it. I also read about John Cage. I didn't realize Joe had studied with John Cage. I wonder what the lessons were like.
What did they talk about?
Silence.
Silence. Yes, with the string bean on the piano string. Yeah.
Well, at the Black Mountain College show in Boston we went to, there was a display of John Cage's schoolwork for something. It was almost, it was
Well, with
unreadable.
at the opening, they had somebody
do one
Dewey.
of his,
Right.
you know, which I got invited to because I like them
Mhm.
paintings, which was pretty outrageous from me.
Is there a biography of Joe where he would talk
Well,
about
it's,
talk about
it's,
his influences?
more,
Maybe in here,
it's more
Richard.
interviews and, you know.
maybe in this dossier. That's a
See?
funny name. They would call it a dossier.
They make a dossier of every student that went with their
Ah.
plant, and
Oh,
they're
so frightening.
Get
Dewey, Dewey did a CD of Joe's life.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
I've got it. You must have it too.
maybe you my files.
Is there anything you'd like to say to sort of sum up your friendship and knowledge of him, Joe?
Well, I thought he was a wonderful man, and at the end of this CD that David Dewey made, it's Joe sitting at a piano playing one of the Bach
Oh,
well-tempered clavier
wow.
preludes.
Oh,
And so
I would love
I knew music was a part of his life, but he could also play it.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
that was wonderful.
my feeling is that he was just so, he was quiet because he listened. He not only listened to sound, but he just saw, he wanted to really take in, especially nature, I think. And he was so profoundly dedicated to preserving land and nature. It's just, I think that was what was his soul.
There's a little corner of Joe that has an Japanese aesthetic.
Hmm.
You'll see it if you
Yeah.
see a bunch of watercolors in particular.
Want to do a show?
I only have one page.
No, we have to.
Martha, you had something else?
Well, maybe it's not totally related to Mr. Fiore as a painter, but one day when I was sitting in the gallery here, we had a visitor who was looking at his work and asked me about the artist residency program that is no longer existing. Did he start that during his lifetime, or was that something that was part of his legacy?
The farmer, the
Artist residency, I don't know.
Is this Farmland Trust?
With the Farmland
Well,
Trust.
before, I think before it was farm, I thought it was called the Fiore.
Oh, I
Fiore
know.
Foundation.
You're talking about the foundation that was in, it was in Jefferson.
Yes.
And it was on land, the Farmland Trust.
Well, I saw when Susan did her installation walk.
Right, it's no longer there. The Farmland Trust does not run it anymore, right, Richard? They, it ran for about 3 years and they had an artist in residency program. And I went to an opening, you went there too. And it was great that Joe's work was on the farmhouse wall inside. But, for some reason, the Farmland Trust decided they couldn't manage doing that anymore.
One of the last artists who participated in the residency there showed here 2 years ago as part of Seven, the collective abstract group.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Droge. They were in that residency. I think maybe the last class in that residency.
Yeah, it was a cool thing when it lasted. Oh, well, if there are no other questions,
all.
thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.